Alright, part 5. Okay, so we're starting to get redundant now, so we'll just see if they have anything. I'll try not to interrupt as much, but what's the point of playing the video without just pointing out what's this? Why is this important? You know, this whole conspiracy, you know, that the trannies are coming to get you and put you in the tranny camps.
It's difficult because it's so horrifying. It's not difficult particularly because it's impenetrable. In fact, it's an absolutely fascinating book in the same way that a terrible horror story is fascinating. But there's no excuse for this. There's no excuse for these professors who claim to be benevolent Marxists.
Well, I think the way you framed it is...
Oh, benevolent Marxists. So again, you can't, you know, there's no connection between Karl Marx's theory of if you want to fail, capitalism is the way to do it, and different variations on the socialist theme. And they are all individual experiments that must be judged for their own individual liabilities and assets. And smart people can't figure that out. Instead, they just scapegoat to make their argument. Well, yeah, I guess that's the cheater's way.
Very important. I think the way you framed it is them being compassionate intellectuals that are inclined toward this because on the surface it seems like it's what a compassionate intellectual would support.
Right. On the surface, social justice. Right. So, and again, your perception of its deep meaning is what? No social justice. That social justice isn't something necessary. That there's nothing to overcome in terms of not only our physical, you know, the fact that we're basically, you know, descendant from Tyrannosauruses. There's nothing for us to overcome physically, socially, in terms of our social evolution, or even, well, I guess those are two big ones right there, and that there's no game to play here in terms of figuring out how to take Tyrannosauruses and create a good game for them to play. You know, that just doesn't involve gutting everything in sight.
Yeah, and it's the unthinking adherence to compassion is the highest moral virtue.
And it's also, whenever you...
Right, okay, unthinking adherence to compassion. So again, the very backwardness of this whole point. Compassion that's of any use, that isn't based on bigotry, has to be based on something thinking. It's an intellectual principle. Fairness and ability to appreciate that the aesthetic, the personal connection, the difference. So you see, the intelligent principle is to recognize that children have properties, and that my or their doesn't modify child in any meaningful way. That's an intelligent person who can figure that out. And I'm just giving you the news flash. That'll be, if there's a story ever to be written, that would be the moral of the story, is that you assholes are too caught up in your my crap, and you're throwing the child as if it's the bathwater, and clinging to your myness.
You have an ideology. Whenever you have these rigid, established forms of communication or methods of thinking, you box people in. You box people in, you control them.
Right, exactly. And so who's doing that? Oh yeah, the people with money, that's right. They're the ones financing the propaganda tanks. Like you.
And you get them to stick inside that ideology, and in doing so you suppress people. It's so ironic that the people that are against suppressing are actually suppressing people through enforcing these ideologies. And
yeah, through bullshit like that. Yes, that's just an absolute sack of shit, nonsense crap. Lie. Idiot. Fool, liar.
And suppressing the marketplace of free ideas.
Right, now the marketplace of free ideas paid for by the bullshit brothers, or the you know, Bill Gates. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, seriously. Fuck you, seriously.
Allowed to have free ideas. You're not allowed to debate these things. I mean, I've seen, there was that really famous instance at the University of Toronto where this one guy, I don't even remember what his book... Yes, what was his name?
Oh, we have another anecdotal case. So again, I'll talk about the one guy in Alabama, you know, wearing his, you know, sheet, and we'll go take quotes from him. Let's quote mine, the Alabama Klan. Yeah, how would that be? And then we'll pigeonhole you as that. How's that?
Make more.
Yeah, why men make more.
Yeah, it was a multivariate analysis of the income disparity between men and women. He used to be a feminist activist. He decided to go look into the claim that women were making. I think at the time it was 70 cents for every dollar that men were making. He thought, well, I have daughters. I better go check this out and see. Do a little bit of in-depth investigating. And what he found out was that there were many reasons for the disparity, and perhaps one of them was unfair discrimination. But there were another dozen.
Yeah, well, whatever. So and unfair by your definition. So. You'd think it was, it's fair discrimination because they have a period or they get pregnant, and therefore are a liability. That's fair discrimination, probably in this idiot's psychology.
They seem to account for more of the disparity than the discrimination. I mean, just the fact that men take the more dangerous jobs is a huge contributor to that, and it's not trivial. You should get paid more if you're putting your limbs on the line. I mean, I grew up in northern Alberta where a lot of young men dropped out of school and went and worked on the oil rigs. It's like you go.
Yeah, but we also know that a lot of that is propaganda too, about what the most dangerous jobs are. And it turns out that exposure to diseases. So a lot of people in the healthcare industry those are fundamentally dangerous jobs. And the big lie is that being a cop or something is going to get you killed. I mean, they're getting more killed now than ever, but I'm just saying it was always kind of a big lie that it was this high risk job, when a lot of other jobs were a lot higher risk.
We'll try that. Well, maybe you could do it. But, the guys would lose their fingers, they'd lose their toes. It was 40 bloody below up there, and they'd be wrestling pipe in the middle of the bush.
I have a friend who does it. I have a friend who does that in northern Alberta. It's horrific.
It is. It's tough work, man. You're out in the bush for 2 weeks.
And when you go outside, there's temperatures where you...
Right, and there's plenty of women, okay, who say, yeah, I'll sign up. I can do it. I can handle it. And they're there. So again, you can just pretend that this isn't something that's the very subject. The very subject is that those jobs, there's lots of women who are willing to get in the boxing ring. There are women who are willing to do that. And the whole point is to facilitate that taking place. Not that I'm for it, but again, that's what they want. That's what they want, yes. People should be free to be those things. Just as many, males have become flight attendants. Nurses. That's a truth. And that's not a bad thing. Sounds like you think it's a bad thing.
You literally can't be outside your truck for more than 30 minutes.
Right.
You have to jump back in the truck.
And that was the whole life where I grew up. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And those are very difficult.
So his arguments is that those are high-paying jobs, where not necessarily, okay? I mean, a lot of those high-risk jobs are actually shitty jobs, like picking up garbage and stuff. High-risk job, lots of liabilities to your health, and not high-paying.
Jobs, and they're very high paying because people die.
Yeah, they're hard work.
And there's not a lot of women taking those jobs.
So we know that coal mining isn't a high-paying job. We know that all those traditionally weren't high-paying jobs. So this argument that somehow that's what scanted the statistics is males have done all these kinds of high risk and jobs requiring high salaries is bullshit.
No, and a good thing too.
So this guy, I'm sorry, what is his name again?
Warren Farrell.
Warren Farrell, who wrote this book, was giving a speech about this book, and the response was so unbelievably violent and crazy and aggressive and also ignorant. Ignorant to what he was saying. Ignorant and not wanting to debate the facts, but wanting to call him a misogynist, wanting to call this...
Again, says this guy. So again, where's the videotape? Why don't you link to it there, buddy?
Hate speech. And
yeah, that's a favorite, man. And I got accused of that twice in the last 2 months because I don't want to use them.
Well, whatever. I think you're a pretty hatefully petty, whatever the hell you are, homophobe, crazy nut. So yes, I'll put you in the category. This whole boogeyman syndrome, hysterical overreactionism.
These compelled pronouns.
Well, the one woman in the
cuck, pussy, pink-shirted cuck.
debate that you had with the other man that I believe is transsexual,
yeah.
The one woman who was trying to say what is the difference between not using those words and using racial slurs and hate speech to describe these people. Like just the idea that that's a woman who's a professor who's expressing it in that way. What is the difference between not choosing to use made-up pronouns versus calling someone generally accepted racial slurs?
Yeah.
That they're trying to frame that as the same thing.
Well,
it's so intellectually dishonest.
Well, the racial slurs are also legal. So what's happening is the law is already such that not using one of these made-up pronouns is a crime, whereas using a racial epithet isn't.
Again, this is about formal interactions. where if you're going to apply this terminology, I shouldn't have to accept your titles. So if I don't want to be called a mister, it should damn well be my fucking right to tell you, shove that shit up your own ass, jackass, but I'll take it as an insult. And a woman should find Mrs., okay, the possessive term, offensive. And if she doesn't, she's kind of stupid.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. So you can use the N-word.
No, it's legal to, yes.
But you can't use, you have to say zero.
Yeah.
You have to say.
That's a lie, okay? Look, you don't have to do any of that, okay, except in formal circumstances. In formal circumstances, it's going to be illegal to use the word nigger, so that's just bullshit. So, again, mix two different subjects, okay? Yeah, there's no law against you being a rude asshole in reality, but you're not allowed to write nigger on a rental agreement, for fuck's sake. Yeah, the nigger just rented the place. You're not allowed to do that, jackass. Fuck. I mean, these guys are just bullshit. Fucking, that's just, you know, you're sitting there talking about how outrageous it is. Well, it's goddamn fucking outrageous to sit there and compare two separate different laws and say they're about the same thing. They're not, jackasses.
Z. Ooh. Wow. This is crazy.
No, you're an Alex Jones wannabe. Okay, just make shit up. Okay, so you can just tell people what they want to hear. Okay, you want to reinforce their ignorance and their bigotry. Okay, and just turn everything into some fucking conspiracy theory through absolute bullshit.
This is really crazy. This is a bizarre moment in time.
This is really lying. This is an insipidly stupid lie and mischaracterization of reality to what? To do propaganda, right? The fucking argument of the week. So you're sitting there resorting to what? Nazi-esque tactics while you complain about Nazis. And you're using their tactics. Just lie. It works.
Where the preposterous nature of it is so undeniable that it's forcing a lot of people, and I applaud you for doing what you're doing, risking your status with the university, risking your support of your peers, and sticking your neck out the way you've been doing with your YouTube videos. Because if you hadn't done that, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be aware of how insidious and...
well, obviously they wouldn't be aware of the made-up propaganda to create this fake boogeyman that Marxism is coming in a dress. You know, don't let it fool you.
What you were describing earlier, the creep.
Yeah.
The slow creep
Yeah.
towards pushing forward, waiting for you to object, waiting, and then moving forward a little bit more once you relax.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been bizarre, I can tell you that. I mean, my son and I counted the number of press articles that have been devoted to this. These are serious press articles. This doesn't count YouTube or radio or TV or any of those things. I mean, the YouTube coverage has been, I would say, overwhelming. There's been 107...
I wonder if he's a junior.
many major press articles written about those videos in the last 2 months.
And what's the general consensus? Are they going...
Well, to begin with, in the first 2 weeks, which was the most stressful part of this for me, I would say the bulk of the press articles ran contrary to my views, and their basic theme was something like, "Why doesn't the mean professor just play nice?" It was something like that. But luckily, fortunately, I seemed to maneuver past that, and then people started to actually read the...
Right, and you picked up the idiocracy, the Trumpies, okay, and the wish they weres, and the petty losers, you know, who can't play a fair game. They can't compete, and they resent that. They resent that they just can't buy affection from the world.
The policies that I was speaking about and started to think about them. And one thing about the press is that they're actually fairly in favor of free expression, given that that's their absolute bread and butter. And so the tenor shifted, and I would say the overwhelming majority of press articles in the last, apart from the first 2 weeks, have been positive.
Well, that's great. What you've done in your YouTube video...
It's great. So the institutions he had some contempt for, they're great when they say what you want to hear, and then they're not great when you don't. So yeah, that's not any kind of duplicity or hypocrisy at all. No.
Which I think is an amazing forum, particularly for what you're doing, is document and describe in great detail the issues with every single one of these problems with no interruption. And I think that's one of the best things about it. The fact that there's not really a whole lot of forums that will give you the chance to express yourself. I've seen some of your videos have hundreds of thousands of views. And there's not a whole lot of forums where you can do that and speak for, I mean, they're all like an hour long, right?
I know.
I mean, it's amazing.
It is amazing. YouTube is well, I started posting my lectures on YouTube, my classroom lectures in 2013, and in really bare bones form. They're just an iPad recording of me lecturing. I didn't edit in the slides or the images, partly because that's very time consuming. But then I watched it for about 2 years, and by September of this year, it climbed to about 1 million views. And then I really started thinking about YouTube, because YouTube was cute cat videos, you know, and Justin Bieber songs for a very long period of time. But it's
so right, YouTube was shit until I found an audience, you know, of the people watching the cat videos. People who watch cat videos apparently like this guy. Okay.
Not that anymore, and that's probably been about 2 years or maybe 2.5 years. But then I realized that YouTube is actually a revolution that's as overwhelming as the Gutenberg press revolution. Gutenberg invented the printing press, and because for the first time in human history, a lecture can have the same reach and the same longevity as a book, and it's a lot easier for people to listen. And the time lag to publication is basically zero, right? I mean, because you can do it live, I guess, as we are right now, or you can post it in a day or two after publishing it, and you have access to this insanely large audience. And the other thing that's really interesting about YouTube with regards to my...
Well, you really don't, and yes, unless you become part of somebody's propaganda, and, you know, a movement, the anti-SJW, you become a speaker for that.
Especially for academic videos, is there's only one reason that people are watching. One, it's not the production quality. The audio is okay, and I'm a good speaker, but it's not the production quality. The reason they're watching them is because they want to know. And that's something that's really cool about YouTube.
Yeah, they want to know. That's really cool. I mean, this is supposed to be like an adult. It's really cool. And they have ads on them. It's really cool.
And YouTube also seems to be quite skeptical about advanced production values. You know, the people who are popular are often people like you, who are basically sitting there talking, and everyone's listening. It's like, oh, well, people are actually talking about something, and this turns out to be interesting. It's like the rebirth of genuine journalism. So, yeah, YouTube's a... God only knows what YouTube is, but...
Yeah, I can't figure it out. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, just from listening to this, I wouldn't have listened to this mush. This isn't a subject I can possibly garner any kind of passion for. And what's your solutions? You don't even identify a reasonable problem, and your solution is the status quo is working just fine for us. Us haves are doing just fine. So, yeah, don't rock the boat.
Well, I think the internet in general, I believe you're right, and I think the internet in general is this really new thing in terms of the ability to express yourself. I mean, it's only existed...
Oh, fuck, it's not all that new. And, again, the express yourself in what context, what YouTube promotes. So we know that it's, again, best just back to the popularity engine, momentum engine, and, you know, friend lists and stuff. You know, so just game the system, and... your relevancy is based on your relevancy. Acquire it, and now you're relevant forever.
For 20 plus years, and in terms of human history, that's a blink of an eye. And it's only really been used, as you've described, over the last couple of years in this form. And I think it also is responsible, I think, for a great deal of the rise of the popularity of the social justice movement. I think it's a double-edged sword. I think these echo chambers and these people that do find these patterns of behavior that they subscribe to. And I think that's a part of the problem with ideologies in general, is that instead of thinking for yourself, you subscribe to a predetermined pattern of behavior, and you lock in, like, this is what...
So, again, you're saying that about your own audience, then? Is that the argument? So if you're going to make this argument that it's just a bunch of imbeciles who are gravitating to a personality, well, aren't you just doing the same thing? So I could say the same thing about your listeners. You know, you just don't want to play by the rules here, which are people have opinions, okay, based on their life experience, and you have to argue past what their life experience is. You know. I mean, people who have been affected by circumstances like integration, and say they were beat up as a kid, or some other kind of thing, and they have personal experiences that are going to be hard for you to sit there and just overcome with a bunch of words. And yeah, there's nothing in my personal experience that makes anything you're talking about seem at all relevant.
What I'm supposed to believe, this is what I'm supposed to enforce, this is what I'm supposed to side with, and you go with that. One of the good things about the internet is that it is potentially possible to see contrary viewpoints and analyze them in the comfort of your own home and being by yourself and looking at maybe one of your videos. And maybe someone come to you, and I'm sure a lot have, come to your videos in anger, mad at you, and then listen to your points of view and listen to how clearly you've established all of these positions and what you actually feel is the problem with these positions in a very, very calm and very rational and very well-educated.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not buying it. I've watched 5 minutes of one of his whiny videos about a dream he had as he gets to start talking about the nature of evil. And yeah, sure, I'm just sure it's full of all kinds of rational arguments. No.
Point of view. I think these people, they have the potential to be at least informed, because
I've had lots of letters. Obviously, maybe I don't know, 2,500 letters, maybe to my email accounts now about this, and a very large number of them, maybe 200 letters, 150 to 200, have been.
I'd love to see the statistics on it. You know, I'd like to see how many of them have micro penises. I mean, I'd just love to be able to get that kind of data. You know, the raw data. Just how many micro penises. You know, how many are fat. I just love to know.
From people on the radical left who've written to me and said that they can no longer speak because the authoritarian types, the PC authoritarians, have got so controlling that their once fashionable position is now being deemed unacceptable, and they're alienated and excluded. I mean, you see that happening with feminists.
And again, speak where and in what context, and what are you talking about? In the sense of where's the censorship, and by what has the most censorship, and what is the most censored? And clearly, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with right or left. It has to do with anybody who is, you know, you have to be polite.
It's like Germaine Greer. I mean, Germaine Greer, who's been banned from campuses, she's not very happy with the idea that being a woman is something that's been reduced to a whim, right? Because she thinks that there's more to being a woman than mere subjective choice. Well, that's no longer a tenable viewpoint on the left, and so people who hold that viewpoint, many of them are feminists, are no longer getting along with the, say, radical gender bender activist types who've got center stage at the moment.
So gender bender activist types is okay, but if I was to say something about frigid, you know, hardened vagina, you know, Anita Bryant types who thinks a woman's only function is to be a servant to some douchebag, Mr. Douchebag. Yes, Mr. Douchebag. No, Mr. Douchebag. Whatever you say, Mr. Douchebag. God says I'm inferior. Fuck you, Mr. Douchebag. Maybe you'll fall down the stairs, Mr. Douchebag. Slip on a banana peel, Mr. Douchebag.
So, yeah, Christine Summers has the same issue with that. She's a feminist, and she calls herself the factual feminist, and she pushes back against it. What her perspective is instead of embracing these false narratives and running with them as if they're the fact.
Right, race realists. You know, this is just all you people just playing games. You know, just all this manipulation. Again, right here. I mean, the guy is fucking Reaganomics all over the place, and this is what he puts behind him, pretending to be something else besides a fucking fascist.
And just using that to reinforce your ideology, she's saying that does feminism a disservice. Let's look at the actual reality of the situation, and let's look at it from a balanced and objective perspective. And she gets so much hate for that. Yeah. The idea of being rational and objective.
Well, that's because as far as the postmodern social justice words are concerned, those are just code words for oppression. There's no object. You've got to remember this with regards to having these sorts of arguments. When you say objective and rational, that's predicated on your implicit belief that there is such a thing as the objective and there is such a thing as rational. And the radical postmodernists, they do not buy that. Not at all.
Yeah, well, that's just an absolute pile of shit, too. Again, so where are you going to make that make any sense? The radical postmodernists, that is, the pro-science people, you know, and fuck tradition people, don't believe there's reason and facts in the world. Yeah, sure. Fuck you.
All. Not at all. As far as they're concerned, that's just another power game on your part. And built into the laws, like Bill C-16 in Canada now, and the same in the laws in New York City that govern the use of these gender pronouns. Built into the law is the idea that there's no biological foundation for your identity, and that it's all purely subjective. They built that into the law. No objective reality, no biology.
That's a lie, too. They're not saying there's no biology. They're saying it's not relevant to your interactions with other people. That you're perfectly free not to be defined by the fact that you have or have not a penis. It isn't the definition of who or what you are, and you're allowed to escape being pigeonholed by it. Or penis-holed.
That's going to unfold over the next 20 years.
Or not. I mean, isn't it possible that these kind of discussions and that your videos and all the people that agree and all the people that are pushing back against this can have some sort of an effect on this movement? Or do you think
I would say yes. I mean,
are you cynical about that?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's going to... You're just pushing me to be more sympathetic to anyone who is anti-you people, because obviously you're trying to tie everything to some sort of socialism, social justice. That's the real social justice you're afraid of. Clearly, you've mentioned Marx. How many times has he dropped the Marx bomb in this conversation? This conversation is not about people wanting artistic freedoms to define themselves or some sort of personal freedoms. This thing is about the rich establishment wishing to cling to their hold on ownership of our culture. That's his fear. He's afraid of social justice as a rational definition of something called social justice. This is the boogeyman to him.
Future? No, I'm not at all cynical about the future. I am cynical about my ability to predict the future. Like when I was younger, much younger, back in the 1980s, I mean, I was very, very concerned about the possibility of nuclear war. But by about, yes, as we all were, yes. By about the mid-90s, though, I realized that things were in such a state of chaotic flux that the one thing I could be certain of was that no matter what I was afraid of with regards to the future, that isn't what was going to happen. And so I'm not cynical about the future, but I do...
Like that makes any sense also. I mean, you're either afraid of it because there's some real calculation that makes it possible, or you're not. Now, I was never terribly afraid of it because there wasn't enough philosophy in the world, for nukes to be in the hands of people who actually do philosophy. And you have to be a philosopher to use nukes in some sort of casual way.
I believe that we're in an unprecedented state of indeterminacy and flux, and God only knows what could happen. I'm not, having said that, I wouldn't say I'm optimistic about the possibility that the universities will reform themselves, because I think that, well, even with the free speech debate that the University of Toronto hosted, they did 3 politically correct things during the debate, which I thought was really interesting, because if I would have staged the debate and been working on their side, let's say, I would have said, strategically speaking, no politically correct maneuvering during this debate, because all it's going to do is discredit us. But that isn't what happened. The university opened up by noting that the land on which we were having the debate was once property owned by the original Native Americans, which is something I find abhorrent, because on the one hand, we took it, and now on the other hand, we want to be friends. It's like, I don't think you get to have both sides of that moral play at the same time. But that's okay. That's how the university opened.
Well, anyway, so that's not even, for him, he doesn't even want to think about taking, so he's talking about how Western values and Western society are this wonderful thing, and yet he doesn't even want to acknowledge, so he'll talk about facts, and he doesn't even want to acknowledge the theft and the murder and the taking that we rationalized when convenient.
In the debate. And then the next thing that happened was that they announced that there would be counselors waiting outside for anybody who was too traumatized by the contents of the discussion. And then they closed by announcing the Trans Day of Remembrance. But the reason I'm pointing this out is because it just shows you the fact that those things happened. They weren't even strategic. That's just how things are at the university. And they didn't even notice that people were going to turn themselves inside out, noticing that, saying, well, God, this is so biased I can hardly believe it, which is exactly what happened. That's how saturated the universities are with this kind of thinking. And I don't have any idea what can reverse that.
Again, he didn't describe anything called a bias in the terms of what people are allowed to say. I mean, saying that, well, look, if somebody says something outrageous and it disturbs you, we have some people you can cry on their shoulder later. They're not saying we're going to prevent you from being offended. They're saying we're going to help the people who are offended. See, and he's turning that into censorship. See, they censored me by saying that, yes, I'm going to be rude and obnoxious for no good reason. And I'm going to hurt people's feelings for no good reason. And so they didn't suppress anything. But you're trying to make it sound like they did because you're not honest.
Collective decisions on the part of citizens, A, to stop sending their children there, B, to stop donating money and leaving it in wills, and C, to pressure politicians. Like, in my wilder moments, I think, cut the funding to the universities by 25%. And let the faculty have a war about what's important. And maybe what would be left over was what the university should be. But I really think it's, with the exception of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics ends of things, I think it's come to that.
Don't you think that...
Right. So that's how afraid of any organization that might take place in the medium of universities. And he thinks he can control it. He can stop it by defunding it. So who's the censor? Who's the one trying to shut something down or shut something up? Sounds like him. I don't like what's happening, so let's defund it. I think nobody should, you shouldn't contribute to him, obviously. You shouldn't contribute to Joe Rogan, and I'll say it, okay? Yeah, don't give these assholes money to talk shit. Yeah, defund them.
What you're doing when you're making these videos is, in a sense, branching out away from just a university and teaching online, because you are.
Well, like I said, I think that you can make a case that that's where the university is, because that's where people are going just to get knowledge. They have no other motivation.
And this is a new thing, obviously. But
well, obviously, people have other motives, and going to college has been, you know, for many people, is some sort of experience, and you know, an adventure. And clearly, a lot of people want college not to be something too demanding intellectually. They really don't want to go to college and have to study and all that shit. They just want to have some sort of social fun. And so they want courses that are related to social fun.
At one point in time, so was the printing press, right? And this new ability to disseminate information seems to me to be more effective, more accessible, more reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's entirely possible that what we're looking at is the future of education.
Maybe it could be. It could be. I mean, I've been spending a lot of time.
Yes, if people caught on years ago, this is where all the resources should have gone in the first place. All university should be online. In a sense, you just need to make one good college. In terms of having a place for good professors to do their performance art, you record it, and it's good for 15 years. I mean, having Einstein lectures on video would be brilliant if we had them. You could take all the, you know, you could take almost any subject and just say it'd be so cool if we did have that resource, and then you wouldn't need all this mush, because the advancements, the changes in the content are so minor that you can just make add-ons. Yeah, and then make it available to everyone, and then pay people to learn it even better.
In the last month or so, also concentrating on video editing, and so I spent about 10 hours this week editing about an hour discussion with a Russian Orthodox icon carver, weirdly enough, that I'm going to launch in the next 3 or 4 days. And
Russian icon carver. That's I can't wait.
We discuss things that are very image heavy, and so I've been cutting in a lot of images, and it is a technology that far supersedes what, I mean, I like lecturing, and lectures can be very effective, but basically with YouTube, you can turn your lecture into a documentary. And then instead of...
and propaganda, pretty much, right? So that's all you're really going to do, is be a propagandist. I can see it now.
Teaching 100 people, you can teach 50,000. It's like, that's a lot different. That's a lot different. And it ends up there permanently.
Yes, and that 50,000 can grow and grow and grow. And as it becomes more spread and shared, also the discussions about it become more varied.
Yeah. Well, more than 3 million people have watched some element of this in the last couple of months. And in September, I had about 9,000 subscribers. That took me about 3 years to build. And one of my ambitions, which was kind of a tongue-in-cheek and comical ambition, is I thought, I bet I can get more subscribers in the next 3 years than the U of T has students. I thought, well, that's pretty interesting.
Yes, that's right. So you just get in the newspaper a few times, and all of a sudden your subscriber list goes up, and blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's how it works. This idiotic fame train. You know, you have to do something stupid, offend somebody. See, that's pretty much what he did, right? He offended a whole bunch of people, created a controversy. Now he's guaranteed to have an opinion that people have to pay attention to, because now he's somehow relevant on a subject. So I haven't been nearly offensive enough is the problem. See, people think I'm just horribly offensive, but I really haven't been offensive enough. At least I haven't offended the right people, let's just say that.
It's like all of a sudden I could have a body of students, let's say, that's larger than the entire university. It's like, well, just exactly what the hell does that mean? And the answer to that is, I don't know what that means. Who knows what that means? But one of the other perverse things that happened while I was being warned and cautioned by the university was that my subscriber base grew from 9,000 to 65,000. So now I have more YouTube subscribers than the University of Toronto has students. It's like, so then I think, well, hell, I could do a whole series on Solzhenitsyn. I could do a whole series on George Orwell. I could do a whole series on Aldous Huxley. I could do a whole series on archetypal biblical story.
Right, and maybe the University of Toronto at some point will say, why are we actually paying this guy when he's putting the crap online for free? Yeah, really no point. Yeah, let's pay somebody who we actually own the capital of, the intellectual property of.
Stories. And half of me thinks, well, if 50,000 people are going to watch each of those, and I can turn them into documentaries instead of just lectures, maybe that's what I should be doing. Like, I couldn't write a book with that much reach. That's crazy reach.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's revolutionary. I believe that. I believe it's revolutionary.
I believe it is too.
Oh, yeah, right. So at least this is an argument to the people who tell me I have to write a book. So he thinks having a YouTube account with 65,000 subscribers is more reach than a book. So, whatever.
I believe no one saw it coming, and I think it's such a new thing that we're all just sort of starting to get a handle on how to use it and what it's capable of.
Yes, well, it was like the internet was for pornography. Well, that changed quick. And YouTube was for cute cat videos. And that changed quick, too.
That's not true. So he doesn't even get that history right. So, of course, the pro-capitalist wouldn't get that part right, where the history of YouTube was a bunch of stolen content, a bunch of stolen intellectual property and whatever you want to call it, value entertainment property. It was stolen for the express purpose of creating views, popularity, and so then it was a sellable resource because it had eyeballs. And that's it, from stolen theft, from overt theft. So he doesn't even get that right. It wasn't kitten videos that made YouTube popular. It was actually fail videos. I mean, beyond the stolen music and the stolen movies and the stolen TV shows. It was fail videos.
I don't know what the technology's going to do.
Well, it's also, I don't know how much you've paid attention to virtual reality or how much you've experimented with it, but my good friend Duncan Trussell has one of those HTC Vives, and I put it on over his house. He runs a podcast, and we played with it for about an hour and a half, and then we did a podcast, and I'm thoroughly convinced, especially now with new phones. There's a phone that I just got called the Google Pixel, and it comes, you can buy it with this headset. You slide the phone into the headset, you put on this virtual reality program, and you're watching a virtual reality show on your phone. I mean, a regular phone that fits in your pocket just slides into this headset. You could do not just a two-dimensional thing where you're showing a lecture and showing images and having a discussion and putting these images in the background or in the foreground and having audio.
Yeah, you could put like electrodes on your testicles, and then you could be electrocuted anytime somebody says something like, women shouldn't be property or something. You know, anytime they say something anti-tradition, they can give them a little shock in the nuts.
Over it, but rather you could have three-dimensional things where you could show a city, a village, a mountain range. You could show geometric patterns. You could get involved in. I mean, it could be used for a million different things.
Wow, yeah, just lines turning colors, colors, flashy, starry, glitter. It's glitter. You can make everything glittery. I love when people do that kind of shit. You could do a million things. I can't think of any of them, but glitter. 3D glitter. Isn't that cool?
And not just for entertainment, but also for education. And I think that's the next step, I think.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I think porn's going to win over that one. So I think you guys are way behind the reasonable curve on this one. The glitter got documentaries in 3D. I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
I mean, it's an unbelievably fascinating new.
Well, you must be shocked to some degree at how popular your podcasts have become. I mean, you have, I don't know how many people on YouTube have a larger subscriber base than you, but it's not that many. So, I mean, how do you account for that? And does that surprise you?
It's surprising, but this whole podcast thing is very surprising. But it's the YouTube is only a.
I can't for the life of me understand how anybody can stand listening to you. I can't. Shit, this is painful.
Small fraction of the amount of people that actually listen to the podcast.
Right.
The numbers, the downloads are insane. Jamie, what was last month's numbers? What was the
YouTube was around 12 million for the month, and audio was at 60 million.
Wow. Yeah, and I haven't played anywhere near enough with turning my online lectures into podcasts.
You definitely should. You definitely should. It's, I mean, a lot of it you could listen to when you're in a car.
Right, or when you're exercising or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know. You're not glued to a screen with the podcast.
No, I was doing some work around my office when I was listening to one of yours, one of your things on YouTube, and I found that it was just as interesting if I was doing some other things around my office. Like it's a very good passive, like podcasts themselves are a very good passive form of education.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that makes them different than reading.
Yeah.
Because reading is faster if you're a good reader, but you can't do anything else while you're doing it.
Right.
But people are much more naturally attuned to listening than they are to reading.
Yeah.
Because we've only been reading, really, human beings have only been reading, roughly speaking, in any large numbers for 500 years.
Right.
It's a...
Jeez. Where was I? Oh, so sorry. It got boring so fast. Podcast, though. Yeah, I haven't gotten the knack of that one yet. People keep nagged me into doing this podcast thing, so I did the what the fuck on its podcast. I don't think anybody listens to it. I mean, so yeah, you do have to do the whole promoting thing. You know, you have to have people and run a little podcast organization, I guess.
Blink of the eye, whereas we'd be listening for a very, very long period of time. And all this new technology, puts us right back. It puts us back into tribal mode, basically, except with this incredible technological enhancement.
It wouldn't be difficult at all to extract the audio from any of these YouTube videos and just start putting it online as a podcast. And again, people can listen to it when they're in traffic, when they can't look at anything, on planes, on the bus, wherever you are, where you can just sit down and you close your eyes and you don't have to be paying attention to it visually.
Yeah, well, about 4 or 5 months ago, I emailed the University of Toronto because they have a kind of a massive online course branch which they're toying with, and I said, look, I've got 1 million people who watch my videos. Maybe you guys should give me a hand. We should do something about this because I got 1 million people who are watching these videos. It's that's a significant number of people. It's worth attending to. But
well, I just don't know if that's their agenda. There, 1 million lunatics. Let's associate with the University of Toronto. Yes, you'll be our sales person thing for clan members and such.
Perhaps I contacted the wrong people, but I never did get a response. But it's something I'm doing it actively right now, and I think the quality of my videos has improved substantially in the last month. And I really like doing video editing, although it's very painstaking. But it's definitely... The universities better be careful, because they're dumping their content online as fast as they can. They're going to make themselves completely superfluous. And some smart person, I've been thinking about this for 20 years, is going to take over the accreditation end. Because, all you'd have to do is set up a series of well-designed examinations online and only let a minority of people pass. You have instant accreditation credibility. It's like, here's an entire 3 years' worth of psychology courses. Here's the exams. You take them. Only 15% of the people pass.
Why only 15%? Why would you limit the...
Yeah, because that's what makes it say these people really know this stuff versus people who don't know this stuff. That's why. Of course.
Number.
Because it makes the accreditation valuable.
But you would limit the number based on... What if you had a much larger group than 15% that were effectively...
Larger percentage doesn't have to do with larger groups, so you're just not getting the percent thing there, fella. Math problem, right? You must have some girly genes in you.
Absorbing the information.
Well, fair enough. You'd have to toy with the accreditation mechanisms. But I mean, part of the utility in accreditation is that it's inequality. If everyone gets accredited, then the accreditation is worth nothing.
Wouldn't you just make it difficult?
Because that's what you do. Make it difficult.
Yeah, but
it's just a proxy for difficulty.
Right. Okay. So you wouldn't necessarily be limiting the number. You would just make it so difficult that the number would be limited almost naturally.
That's right. Well, I think.
Well, I'm just saying it's sort of the two things have to go together. You can't call yourself an expert in terms of a class if expert means you know everything that people who aren't experts know or something. There has to be exceptionalism, has to have something called, has to be a smaller group. The exceptional can't be bigger than the subgroup.
Yes, that's exactly right. I wouldn't limit the number of times people could take the exams.
That's a great idea.
Right, I'd just tell them they have to pass them. That's right, yes, good, very good. But if you can't give them the same test each time, because then they can just learn what the right answers are to the test. You see.
Well,
so as long as you hit threshold, I mean that's what happens often. Say with like if you're trying to pass the bar or something like that, you get to take...
This is like a non sequitur. This whole conversation now on how to appropriately test. And so now he's going to talk about the bar exam. But yes, see the bar exam, they just switch the questions. They have 10,000 questions, and they just rotate the relevant questions into each exam, so nobody can really know all the answers.
A number of times, but you have to hit threshold.
Well, Thaddeus Russell, who's a history professor at Occidental, he's doing that very same thing. He talked about it here, that he's building right now an online university, and he is planning on giving out degrees in history through his online university, because he's been teaching at universities for a long time, and he has a huge problem also with the politically correct movement. And
right, and it's like Jerry Falwell's Liberty University. It's all about liberty and expanding people's minds. Oh, no, it isn't. Yeah, no, it's about the fascists. It's like making little junior fascists.
He was speaking out against this really crazy story where these two kids, adults, got intoxicated and had sex, and because they were both intoxicated, for some reason the boy was described as the attacker and was he was being accused of sexual assault, even though it was consensual, completely consensual. Even though they were both, not only did she send a text saying, "Do you have condoms? Come on over. We're going to do this." But because they were intoxicated, he was the one that was the rapist, which is insane. It's sexist. It's 100% sexist.
So again, well, this is a more complex subject to analyze. But again, isn't it always the responsibility of the male to say, if she says no, it's no? And if she's unconscious, she's not capable of consenting, then I can't take that step. So again, he said they got pregnant. So obviously the condoms weren't relevant somehow. And again, so he's just saying, look, as males, we're able to advocate responsibility for the consequences, when clearly you're moving onto another person's territory. There's no doubt about the encroachment. So again, this is just another way of saying it's okay for me to steal America from the Indians, because I'm better than they are. I'm better than the woman.
Suing, Thaddeus Russell came on here and discussed it, but that politically correct ideology where it's essentially prejudice against men in that particular the idea that
he's stepping outside of the university.
Yeah, he's slowly moving.
Gad Saad is doing that.
Exactly.
Too.
Yes.
And he gets 100,000 people watching each video.
Yeah, he's been on here a few times. I love that guy. And again, he's another one who, like yourself, has stuck his neck out and spoke out about what he thinks is this preposterous movement towards denying facts, denying reality, and forming these narratives that are based on their ideologies, and sticking within this box and then seeking to find people that agree with it.
Right, and that's all you're doing. So again, this is just such a fucking silly story to tell about how they're doing it wrong when they're doing exactly the same thing you're doing, which is selectively choosing narratives to defend a position that, in my opinion, is fucking idiot. It's stupid. You're an idiot.
And then reinforcing these ideas in this echo chamber. And for someone who's outside of it, like myself, it's a fascinating thing to watch. For someone who's inside of it, like yourself, it must be maddening.
Well, we've tried other online interventions too. So I have these YouTube videos up, but we also I worked with some corporations a while back because I've done some consulting, and I designed tests to help.
Yeah, consulting for corporations on how to do what. He's a personality psychologist. So, again, so this is, how to game people. How to game people using their psychology against them. And he's proud of his consulting work in that area.
People hire better employees, which I still do. And in fact, I work with this company up in California called the Founder Institute, and it's the world's largest stage early technology company incubator. It's created 2,500 companies in the last 4 years, and we test now in 135 cities. But when I was marketing these tests to companies, they kept asking me what could be done about their poorer performing employees. And I said, well, I didn't know, because it's not that easy to, if you have someone who's problematic, who's troubled, it's not that easy for a manager to figure out how to straighten them out. And they just don't have the time. They don't have the time, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the training usually to do that. But I designed a set of programs called the Self-Authoring Suite. And one of them, the Future Authoring Program, helps people write out a plan for their life. So it helps them, it asks you some questions about 6 dimensions of your life. Your health, mental and physical, your use of drugs and alcohol, your wishes 3 to 5 years down the road for intimate relationships, for family, for career, for education, and so on. They ask you, what could your life be like 3 to 5 years down the road if you set it up for you like you were someone you were taking care of? So it asks you those 6 questions. Then it asks you to write for 15 minutes about your vision for your life. You get to have what you want and what would be good for you. What would that be? And then it asks you to write for...
Well, yeah, I just think you're going to... I think it's very good. I mean, I think anything that forces people to do some thinking about what the hell they're living for is a great idea. Now, whether or not it makes better employees or not, I don't know about that.
15 minutes about what your life would be like 3 to 5 years down the road if you let your bad habits and your idiocies and your foolishnesses and your weaknesses take the upper hand and auger you into the ground. Because everyone knows about that. And so it's like you get to design a little heaven to strive for and a little hell to avoid. And then you write for... Then you basically turn that into an implementable plan. That's the second part of the program. We've used that with about 5 to 7,000 university students now, mostly in Europe at the Rotterdam School of Management. And we've raised their grade point average of their kids 25%, dropped their dropout rate the same. And it's had a whopping effect on men and on non-Western ethnic minorities. It's moved the non-Western ethnic minority student population performance at Rotterdam School of Management from 70% below the average to above the female Dutch natives. And so the reason...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't make much out of that, but they're above the Dutch natives now. I don't know, female Dutch natives. So, I guess the Dutch natives, maybe I ought to ask them what they're doing right. I mean, if, they're the one to be above. I was just thinking about the Elvis and Hendrix images behind Joe Rogan. And you're just saying, well, isn't that just typical examples, right? That these guys didn't figure out how to live their lives. Drowned in a fucking bathtub, drug overdose essentially, and drug overdose, fall in your own toilet. Yeah, so why does Joe think they're great icons to put behind him?
Telling you this, apart from the fact that it's a very good program, and we did it at Mohawk College in Canada a year ago. We dropped their dropout rate in the first semester 50%, and that especially, again, worked well for men, because men are at more risk of dropping out now, and especially for men who didn't have good grades in high school. So not only is there the possibility for the net to provide tremendous dissemination.
So I guess he's just selling his own, look, I can help you screen your employees. I mean, yeah, don't hire people that use drugs. So Joel like that.
Of the intellectual material, but there's also the possibility for the net to provide dissemination of psychological interventions that have major impacts on people's mental health and productivity at extraordinarily low cost. So that's really been fun too. So,
well, I think providing that sort of a structure and a framework, giving people the tools, just in form of asking them questions. What would you like to do? Please describe this. What is your? And when you do that, you sort of allow them to help themselves outline what they would like to accomplish, which most people don't do.
No, well, in our education system.
Yeah, well, maybe next you could do a whole video series on how to write a check. You know, how to manage your credit card. Yeah, yeah. People are really dumb. That's right. And maybe that should be part of this conversation. I mean, just how idiot is idiocracy? I mean, just how dumb is the average asshole watching one of these stupid fucking videos? Yeah. So that's the other thing I'd want to know, right? How many of them are fat? How many of them have a micro penis? And how many of them have an IQ that just doesn't get to 100?
The system was designed in Chicago in the late 1800s to produce factory workers. Because it was set up when rural people were migrating to the cities en masse, because their kids, first of all, were likely to get factory jobs, and second of all, if you were working in a factory, your kids needed to be taken care of. And so the purpose of the schools was to train factory workers, which is why everyone's lined up in rows, and why there are bells. It's a factory model. The problem with that is that now people's careers basically have to be self-determined, but that's never part of the education system. Part of the reason I developed these programs was because I realized this is the same course where I'm teaching students that if they would have been in Germany in the 1930s, they would have been Nazis. I'm trying to get them to design their lives, and it's way better to have someone articulate...
Right, design their lives around what? Some other Nazi program. Some other program. Program from what values? Oh, good American capitalist values. So go marry somebody with money. There, simple answer. Now you're done. You've done your life strategy correctly.
Their own plan. You actually neurologically rewire people by having them formulate their own thoughts, which is why, your school teachers used to say, put it in your own words. It's actually very good advice if they would explain what that means. It's like, if you have to conjure up the thoughts and you have to articulate them, then they change you. And so this program has had the effects have been absolutely overwhelming for us as researchers, because it's very, very difficult to produce an intervention that actually has a positive effect on people. You hope it does, but generally when you test it out, it's like, it doesn't do what you thought it did, or sometimes it even has the reverse effect.
That sounds fascinating. Now, how can a regular person, have access to this?
Yeah, it's called self-authoring. So that's SELF, authoring, like writing a book, selfauthoring.com. And the programs, I gave away the future authoring program. I think it might still be free. It is till the end of November. I did a video called Message to Millennials, because one of the things Jonathan Haidt said about, he called Karl Marx the patron saint of the social justice warriors, and John Stuart Mill the patron saint of people.
So I mean, you're just amazed. It's just how many times has he said Marx in this conversation, and it's nothing about anything Marx said. So there's no Marx quotes in here that mean anything.
People say who stood for objective truth and freedom of expression, and I thought that was really smart. He said Brown University is #1 for social justice warrior universities, and Chicago for truth universities. But one of the things that Marx has over John Stuart Mill is that Marx is a social revolutionary, and young people like to think about ways to change the world, right? And that's actually a positive part of their development. It's a stage that the developmental psychologist Jean Piaget called the messianic stage, and he associated that with late adolescence. It's like, well, young people want to change the world. The problem is that that's being harnessed into attempts to change other people. But that's what you should do. If you want to change the world, you should change yourself. And I don't mean...
So again, we know that that's what you'd want to do. Is he just pointed out how the Nazis were Nazis because the Nazis were programmed to be Nazis. So obviously you just want to interrupt their programming. So it's exactly the right argument. The way to warrior is to warrior against the propaganda of the establishment. Break the Nazis from inside the Nazis. The programming.
Not in some cliched sense. I mean it in the sense that Alexander Solzhenitsyn said when he analyzed the Soviet Union. He said, don't be thinking that the line that divides good from evil runs down the political spectrum or countries or something like that. It runs down right down the middle of your soul. And if you want to sort out the world, then what you do is you sort yourself out. It's a serious business, right? They say it's more difficult to rule yourself than to rule a city. And that's the truth. Because you're complicated and...
Yeah, well, whatever. There's no ruling yourself. So again, this is all just bullshit. So... What's the point? You're a programmed machine, and all you can do is say, well, have I assessed the facts correctly? So looking at this guy, is it a fair or rational assessment to say that the the movement for whatever you want to call it, the sexual revolution, has something to do with Marxism. Is that rational? I always say no, it doesn't. It's completely irrational mush.
Horrible monsters inside of you that need to be tamed and to be brought into alignment and submission, so that you can be a powerful and useful person. And I gave away the future authoring program as part of this video I made, suggesting to millennials that instead of rushing out there to change the world by changing other bad people, that they should look inward and sort themselves out properly. And I think we've given away about 4,000 or 5,000 of those programs so far. Thanks, Roosevelt.
Oh, how exciting! Yeah. So yes, you. I don't know what is that. So I guess his solution would be is you fix the problem by telling the people who you think are a problem to fix yourself. Well, fix yourself, buddy. You need to fix yourself. Yeah. Save me the trouble of fixing you for you. You fix yourself, idiot. Because you're an idiot.
Free till the end of November, and then what happens with it?
Well, the future authoring program is regularly $14.95, and the whole self-authoring suite, which involves, it's a program that helps you write an autobiography, so it helps you sort out things about your past that are still burdening you. You can tell, if you have a memory that's more than 18 months old, approximately, and when you pull that memory up to mind, if you still have an emotional reaction, that means you haven't fully articulated the memory. You haven't analyzed it causally. You haven't freed yourself from its grasp, and you're carrying it like a weight, and your brain responds to that.
Yes, like seeing your parents, eaten by a great white shark. Get over it somehow. Somehow, if you still have a reaction to that when you think about it, well, you're insane. You got to fix that, buddy. That's stupid. Yeah, right.
Like the more weight you're carrying like that, more baggage, let's say, the more of the stress hormone cortisol your brain produces, and cortisol makes you old. Some of this work has been done by James Pennebaker at the University of Texas at Austin, because he's...
Notice the gray hairs. Just saying. Not too many here. Gray hairs there.
Started to pioneer these sorts of writing programs, and he found that if people wrote about uncertain things, past, present, or future, so they could be traumatic things, they could be uncertain things, that their physical health improved. And he did a lot of detailed research trying to figure out why that was, and basically came down to the explanation.
Yeah, well, Alex Jones sells magic water, fixes everything. So you really don't got to worry about your health anymore. Just get some Alex Jones miracle water and you're fine.
That it was something like an uncertainty reduction mechanism at work. Because your brain is always figuring out how well situated are you in the world. How much do you not know compared to how much have you mastered? And you can tell that you've mastered things because when you go somewhere and you act, things turn out the way you want them. That's an indication of mastery. And your brain is sort of keeping track across your whole life of how many places you've been where things haven't worked out compared to how many places you have been where they have worked out. And if all those places in your past where things haven't worked out, you need to map and master. And that
whatever. Yeah. Well, that's all nice. I mean, I'm not an expert on fixing psychology. Forget it, because I'm owned by mine. But this idea to master anything is just kind of silly. He's just talking about the fact that you go on the internet and there's all kinds of things you can't master. I mean, the trolls will show up. The blah 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 blah. And his, I guess, theory of mastering means you just ignore it, not in any way fix it. So just bow when they applaud and ignore the occasional tomato and cabbage thrown in your direction.
Decreases the existential load on you, but that actually decreases your psychophysiological load. It makes you healthier. It makes you less stressed. And so we put all that together in the self-authoring suite to help people write about their past, to sort it out in a detailed autobiography. It asks you questions about...
You sell some herbs with this or something? A little herb package?
Your past. It says, divide your life up into 6 epochs. And then divide each of those, that might be, say, birth to kindergarten, and then maybe elementary school, and then maybe junior high school, however you want to do it. And then to write about the emotionally significant events in each of those epochs, and then to describe their effects on you, and then to analyze how you did in those situations, what you might have done differently, what you might do differently in the future, to straighten out your past. And I've done that with my students in my Maps of Meaning class for about the last 10 years, and some people have written 15,000 words. It's not that uncommon for students to write 15,000 words in their autobiography.
Wow.
So,
how exciting. And this does what? I mean, you're getting hysterical because a couple of people with confused sexual blah 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 are threatening you with what? A requirement to address them by the name they choose? Oh, how offensive.
That's such great advice. That's such great advice about reconciling with your past, because so many people just carry it around.
Yeah, well, if you're thinking about your past, what it means is you haven't analyzed the causal chains. Because you might say, well, why do you remember your past? Well, you might say, well, it's in order to have an objective, record of the past. It's like, it has nothing to do with that. There's only one reason you remember the past, and that's to be prepared for the future. That's why you remember the past. And so what you're supposed to do is take the past and extract out from it wisdom. And wisdom is the ability to avoid stumbling blindly into ditches. And so you think, well, here's a time in my past I stumbled blindly into this horrible ditch and terrible things happened to me. It's like, okay, you need to take that apart. You need to figure out how was it that events conspired with your participation, voluntarily or involuntarily, so that terrible consequence emerged.
Yeah, but all this bullshit is fine. But I mean, his conclusion is that any trap you fell into that indicates capitalism is dangerous, you should pretend didn't happen. And any trap you fell into that might state that it's all the trannies' faults, well, somehow you're supposed to take that seriously. So this doesn't mean anything.
You need to know why that happened and how you could react differently in that situation. And as soon as you do that, your brain will leave it alone. It won't obsess you about it anymore, because the anxiety-producing parts of your brain are basically trying to tell you where there are obstacles in your environment. It's like, look out, don't go there, don't go there. It's like, well, don't go there, there's fire. Well, if you can master the fire, right, then you're a wielder of fire, you're not just a victim. And lots of situations are dangerous or not dangerous depending on your level of mastery, right? Life is like that. And so a negative emotion that's associated with a memory is something that's crying out for mastery, and writing can really help with that. So
we're supposed to learn from the experience by mastering it and dissolving the experience into some sort of irrelevancy, even though it's highly relevant. I mean, just forget the elephant in the room, you know.
You're reorganizing your brain when you write autobiographically. You're basically, the emotions, imagine emotion, memories can be stored at different levels of your brain, from sort of primordial, reptilian, image-laden areas that are very emotional, up to finely articulated plans for your future life. Well, you want to take everything that's negative and emotional and transform that into a fully articulated vision for your future. And that frees you of your past. You shouldn't be thinking about your past. I mean, maybe if you're 80 and you're going over a well-spent life, that's a whole different thing. But if you're 30, 35, or 20, and most of the time you're thinking about your past, it's like your soul is trapped back there, and you need to free it through investigation. And the metaphysical language is appropriate, because that is, in a sense, what you're doing. You're trapped in the past. It's like you got to break free of that so you can use all your resources to move ahead into the future.
Again, move ahead in the same blind way you did in the past that got you the trauma of the elephant stepped on my head. And so you should put your head in front of the elephant again by ignoring the past. Doesn't sound right to me.
Anyways, in these programs, the Future Authoring Program, like I said, has had walloping effects on people.
That's fantastic advice. I mean, it's just it's so logical, and it sounds so great. I mean, I think that's one of the gigantic problems that a lot of people have with education, that you're learning facts, you're learning information, but you're not learning how to use your own mind.
Yeah, well, here's something that's really interesting.
How to use your own mind. Amazing. Yeah. Your mind uses you. you don't use it.
About that. So I spend a lot of time. I'm a scientist, but I would say I'm also a religious.
Yeah, I don't. He's just going to say I'm a religious kook. Okay, here we go. I was going to react to the I'm a scientist. What, pseudo scientist? What, Christian scientist? What, mythical scientist?
Religious person. I'm a deeply religious person.
There we go. Okay, so there, another giveaway. So why is this guy relevant again? Because homophobic, racist, religious kooks like him. Ew.
How do you reconcile those? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I spent 40 years thinking about that. And for 20 of those years, I did almost nothing but think about that all the time. And I realized something, partly from reading Carl Jung. And what I realized was that even the fundamentalists have the wrong idea about religious truth. Religious truth is not scientific.